Hello everyone, my name is Professor Robert Gale. That's my info up there. It's also on the syllabus, which you guys should all have a copy of. Most of you know me, saw me on Monday, or had me for a class last semester. This week I'm taking some time off, so Dr. Chatterjee, I believe, is going to be subbing in while I make this recording, and then I'll be back next week. So, and this should go along perfectly smoothly. So by now you should have seen a copy of the syllabus, which we're going to go over briefly. And I'm going to have several videos for you guys to watch to talk about the class and the readings and the things that are going to be due next week. And I'm always available via email or text. Those of you, again, who know me know how quickly I try to respond to emails, so that shouldn't be a problem. Everything should go well. All right, so briefly, the syllabus should be pretty rote and uniform across all classes as far as policies and procedures and the grading requirements. It's 70% to pass the class. All Gen Ed courses are a 70% pass rate. Nursing courses are a 77% pass rate. But I don't think you guys have to worry about that quite yet. So let's kind of go over a couple things real quick. This could be a 16-week class this semester, and your topical outline should show that. Here's the way we're going to do the class. So we have readings that we do, which I'll describe in a later video. Your elements, your grading elements are on page 2. You guys should all have a copy of the book. It's called The Practical Skeptic. It's a reader. It's not a textbook. It's a reader, and we'll go over that later too. I want to go over your elements, your grading elements on page 2 of your syllabus. 15% of your grade is going to be for quizzes. It says quizzes and tests, but it's quizzes. So we do weekly quizzes based on the reading from the semester, from the reading from the week prior, and they're 10 questions, multiple choice, very basic. We do that every single week, and 15% of your final grade is based off of that. 10% is going to be based off in-class assignment, which we will talk about. 10% is going to be based on your homework. Every week you're going to have a small homework assignment to turn in. It's not going to be as long as they used to be, but it's still a written homework assignment based on the readings. That's important. 15% of your grade is going to be in attendance and participation. So I did that 15 on purpose because you're expected to attend all classes. There are 16 weeks in this semester. So for every week that you're absent, I will deduct 1% from that attendance and participation percentage. So if you miss 1 week of class, you get docked 1% from that. So there's 15%, and you could lose 1% for each class you miss. You could also lose some points if you simply don't participate. We'll talk more about that next week. But just please be involved and participate in the class. This is one of 2 classes I have where I ask for class participation. Your midterm is going to be worth 25% of your grade, and your final exam is going to be worth 25% of your grade. You should actively participate in class. So you see the topical outline you can look at, which we'll be going over next week quite a bit. Pretty basic. You guys have heard all this, I assume. Academic integrity. Don't plagiarize. I don't want to see any writing that isn't yours, especially if I think it might be yours. What I mean is, if you're going to quote from the book, put it in quotes. You have to put it in quotes. If you're going to quote something from an outside source, you have to put that in quotes and identify where you got it from. They have to be your words. If they're not your words, if you didn't write them, then they need to be put in quotes. That's very important. If you decide that you can't understand a reading and you want to paraphrase someone else's writing, be very, very careful. You better damn well be ready to explain to me what the paraphrasing means. Last semester, there were several cases of plagiarism where students would take someone else's writing and use a thesaurus and try to rephrase it a little bit, use synonyms, and that doesn't work. If it's largely the other person's writing and you just change a word here or there, that's still plagiarism. So don't do it. If you commit plagiarism, you get a 0 on that assignment. If you commit plagiarism more than once, if you do it twice, you get a 0 in that class. So if you plagiarize in this class and then 2 semesters later you plagiarize in another class, you get dropped from that class. You actually fail that class. If it happens a 3rd time, you get removed from the program. You actually fail the program. So that's important. Dress code, wear your ID badges. I don't have my ID badge on. The one thing they seem snippy about is wearing an ID badge. Please do that. I will try to remember to wear mine. I really should, but I don't. So you're supposed to wear your badge. The dress code is casual. Please don't dress like you just got out of the gym or you just woke up. No jammies, no leggings, no midriff stuff, no halter tops, no, I don't know. Just don't dress like a deadbeat and we should be okay. All right, so and I have some addendums. So these are unique to my class. All work is due on the due date. They're due on paper. I don't want to see anything on email with some exceptions that I'll explain to you. But when I come in the morning or in the afternoon, if I had the case of my noon to 3 classes, I might say hello to everyone, and then I very quickly grab the homework. And your homework should be on paper, ready to go, ready to turn in. If you're in class, the homework has to be there with you. If you have an emergency and can't make it to class, and you email me your homework before class begins, then I will likely take that homework. You won't be able to take a quiz if you're not in class, but I will probably take that homework. So let me reiterate, if you can't make it to class, and it's an unexcused absence, meaning you got a flat tire and I can't give credit for that, or your kid is sick, and you don't take them to the doctor, and I'm only supposed to take that if you have a doctor's note. So if you have an unexcused absence, but you did your homework, if you email it to me prior to class beginning, Professor Gale, here is my homework for this class, I can't make it today, I will probably take that homework. If you miss class and the next day or 3 days later you email me and say, can I send you my homework, or you attach your homework, I will not take it. I need to know that you had the homework ready to go for that class period. That's the only time you can email me. But if you show up for class, you better have that homework on paper. That's very important. No, I don't accept credit for any late written assignments. Don't be late for class. I start quizzes right after class begins. I don't want anybody popping in at the end of class. And I have the caveats. Having said that, if you're in the military, if you have duty or guard service, that's fine. If you have a death in the family, that's fine. If you're sick, if your kid's sick, let me know. I have 2 kids, I have a wife, they get sick. So if something happens, send me a text message, send me an email, let me know what's going on, and I'll be happy to work with you. If you have a long, wonderful cruise that you had already paid for, I cannot give you credit for that. If you have a wedding that you need to attend, I cannot let you make up a quiz for that. If you have a work-related thing, I can never give exception for that. I can never take work-related issues as a reason to miss class. I'm not even allowed to do that. Your priority should be Brookline College. And if your employer doesn't allow you to place BC Brookline as a priority, then you're probably working in the wrong place. So I can't take any work-related stuff. I have to work an extra shift, I have orientation, I have to do this. I cannot take that at all. I'm not allowed to take that at all. Please don't use your cell phones, don't pull them out, don't play little games. It's very annoying and distracting, and if you remind me next week, I'll talk about a study I found, maybe I discussed it with some of you last semester, about the distractions of cell phones in a classroom and how they can actually, the elimination of cell phones can raise scores by as much as a whole letter grade. There's a lot of studies done on that. Plagiarism, cheating, there's a whole thing there about plagiarism and cheating. It makes me nauseous when students do that. Okay, the grading rubric for homework. So all homework that I do, pretty much all assignments that I do, it's a 10-point scale. Okay, now when it goes into your Moodle, it's going to be shown as 100 points, but that's fine. So 7 points, or 7% of that, is for content. And 3 points, or 30% of that, is for APA style. All right? So let's talk about APA style. There are 4 things that I insist on with all assignments that are turned in, and many of you could probably recite those, but you have to be in Times New Roman font, double inch, or double space, 1-inch margins, Times New Roman, double space, 1-inch margins. Oh, and 12-point font. I have to have all 4 of those at least. If you're missing any one of those in your paper, I'm automatically going to take off one of these APA points, automatically. All right? So by APA, what I mean is it has to be formatted in the proper way for a paper. I'm not necessarily interested in a title page. I'm not necessarily interested in running heads or page numbers. But APA style is also grammar and punctuation. But for this first assignment, let's focus on these 4 elements that you absolutely must have. Next week I'll talk about other things like the who, that, confusion and punctuation inside of quotation marks and things. But for right now, all you need to worry about is this. Make sure your paper makes sense and do this. The content. So it has to answer the questions. It has to make sense. It has to, if you answer in complete sentences, that would be great. But if you answer the questions properly, you'll do well on that. How do you get a 7 out of 7 on content? It has to be awesome. There have to be no grammatical errors. It has to be very well written. It has to be pretty much perfect. There aren't that many papers that hit that level. Most of the time, if you get a 6 out of 7 in your paper, you'll be just fine. Even a 5.5 out of 7 is okay. It's rare that you'll get a 7 out of 7 on your paper. The best way to ensure you get that, and that you get a perfect 10 out of 10, is to print out your homework when you're done with it and read it over. If you read your homework out loud before you turn it in, you will do far, far better. You'd be surprised how many mistakes you'll catch if you take your paper and you're able to read it out loud to yourself and make the corrections of the mistakes that you have. That's very, very important. So you can see the way I scale the content section. 7 is superior work, 6 is very good, 5 is good. So anything over a 5.5 or so is fine. If you consistently get a 5 out of 7, or it works out to say an 8 out of 10, then come and see me and we'll talk about how to make your papers better. But if you're getting an 8.5 out of 10, 9, 9.5 out of 10, you're doing just fine. Don't expect to always get a 10 out of 10. You may never get a 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10, as I tell my students, it makes me tingle, so that sounds dumb. But if it really is wonderful to read, and there aren't that many things that I don't write 10 out of 10. So if you're an excellent writer, you might get a 10 out of 10. If you're an excellent writer, you'll probably end up getting 9, 9.5 out of 10. And there's no shame in that. That's still A's. 9, 9.5 out of 10 is still an A. 8 is still a B. So you don't have to worry about that. So length, I skipped down a little bit. 200 to 250 words for homework answers is usually what I ask for. If you're a little shorter than that, I don't count words. I hate counting the words. If you're shorter than that but you answered the question, that's fine. Please don't go too long. I don't have maximums, but if you're going over 350, 400 words, that's way too long. I have lots of papers to read, and I'm sure that you have a lot to say, but maybe tell someone else, I suppose. You're going to explain the material in your own words. Please don't just fill your homework assignment with quotes. No more than 40% of your homework assignment should be quotes, because you can give me a quote from the book, and then you have to explain what it means in your own words, and that'd be helpful. Okay, what else?